You know what? Windbreaker is still pretty good.
When I rhyme, something special happen every time. I'm the greatest, something like Ali in this prime.
Windbreaker is one of those shows where I was glad it still kept up my expectations, especially after episode 1 and setting the bar so high, especially when there's a lot of shows out there that drop the ball or even just lower to a different standard. But I didn't feel like that when it came to the terms of Windbreaker. It made me happy for a few reasons. One of the main reasons is because the show feels extremely character driven, especially when it comes to at least 4 characters I can think of on the top of my head. No, probably 5.
Oh yeah, like, comment, subscribe, it helps.
That I can say I really liked, instead of saying I liked or thought they were decent. I really liked at least 5 of them. Feeling like I at least have to start off with the main character itself, Haruka. Haruka, I really like a lot. He has a lot of traits that you would see from a lot of other MCs that are out there, like for example him being brave, him standing on his own values, or him fighting for what's right. And shit, even oddly enough, he even has the weird trope of being like tsundere, but I do like him a lot because he has the ability to change. See, now the thing is with Haruka is he was always a good fighter initially, but realistically you gotta ask, why was he always a good fighter? And the reason it is because in his hometown he was never liked, so he'd always have to defend himself from bullies, or sometimes he might even save someone here and there, but even so, everyone would always talk down on him or even try to fight him and just speak with ill will whenever it came to the terms of Haruka as a person, being in an extremely negative and disgusting environment for himself as just even as a child. And as anyone can already guess, the lasting effects necessarily that could happen to a kid's mindset, especially at that young of an age, to be like, hey, you're nothing, hey, let's fight, or hey, let's pick on you for no reason. It gives you as a person a norm that isn't necessarily normal to the human society, and in turn give you a negative mindset when it comes to the idea of society or the idea of humanity and the idea of having anything normal in a normal life. Give you lasting effects that necessarily could be for a specific person the rest of their fucking life. One of the best things about this show, especially when it comes to Haruka, is just seeing him adapt, seeing him smile, seeing him be happy when people necessarily treat him right or people treat him with decency or respect, and seeing his reaction to it. He's always like happy, but he can't say it. I know it's like some trope shit, but like it's still pretty good to see. Seeing someone that gets treated wrongly and just get treated rightly and have everything right go for them just brings a smile to my face. And one of the things that's a side note but also sort of connects with Haruka as well as the setting. Now the setting necessarily isn't a lot when it comes to anything else but Haruka himself. The reason why the setting is like that is because with Haruka, he himself has never experienced other people being nice and kind to him, but when he does a good act, and he actually does a really good act in the beginning of the show, everyone actually applauds him, everyone gives him gifts, everyone shows him positive reinforcement, equaling a positive environment for himself. And even though that's on a later stage in life, this positive and nurturing is going to change his nature as a whole. Even the people around him are pushing him into being a better person, to being in a leadership position. Everyone in the classroom actually elects him to be the class president basically. And what it feels like necessarily is that concept of you pushing that person into a leadership position and you just seeing that person have a whole bunch of pressure on them, and that's where you get fucking diamonds. You know what, I'm actually gonna add an extra character to this list because I love this scene specifically what it is right now. I want to add the extra character is Hayato. Hayato I actually sort of like too a lot. The only reason why is because he's one of those characters who don't necessarily show their cards. He doesn't really show a lot of who he is or his motives or what necessarily he's doing. That mask sort of cracks a little bit or gets slipped down a tiny bit in the scene where he's fighting Minoru, but this scene specifically sums it all up.
You're not about that life, champ. I can see it.
Oh, I am about that life. No.
When these two fight, you basically see that he gets extremely emotional, right? And this is something that you don't necessarily see with his character, and it's not necessarily shown visually, but it's shown in the way that he's fighting him, the way that he's sort of playing around with him, showing him that he's literally nothing, especially in the grand scheme of things. And the way he's giving his speech, he's showing him a reality check. He's showing him that you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be acting the way you're acting, especially when he saw him actually just start bullying other people, especially when they're down or when they're just basically on the floor and they're unconscious and so just like messing with their body. He wanted to show him what it's like to mess with someone and the reward that you will get for doing so. One of the best ways I've seen of someone getting shown as an example. Now the next 2 characters sort of remind me of 2 other characters from a different series, but just a vibe of them, not as a character as a whole or a lot of them, just a little bit, just a small vibe of them. Now the characters in question is Hajime and Toma. Now they remind me a little bit of Blackbeard as well as Shanks, just a tiny bit, just a little bit, just a small vibe of it. Start off with Hajime. Hajime just gives off the vibe of he's the leader, like he's that guy, even though we all know he's the leader, but just the traits that he has as a leader and just the example he will be setting for the main character himself of what he should be and what he should be striving for. It's a fucking amazing. But regardless if he's shitting all of his subordinates like family, he says you're all like brothers brothers to me. He treats them all with dignity and respect, and no matter who's in trouble, he's there in a heartbeat, and just with the simple goal and the simple thing in mind of just having everyone be safe and everyone be good around him. That's all he necessarily wants. Living a peaceful life with the leadership position just falling straight into his lap. Then Toma, which I also did say before in the other video, or at least the first video I had when it came to Windbreaker, where I said Toma just definitely feels like he had like that red hair Shanks vibe for like a quick second, where he pulled up with his own crew and he just started wrecking shit with how they act and what they say, just giving you a complete tone of what the story necessarily is going to be going forward. Going a little bit more into detail with Toma, I do inherently like his fight as well as his little arc that he does have with his rival, because necessarily it is incomplete because we don't get a definitive answer by the end of it, but I do like the concept of what was going on and what was happening. Now the situation with Toma and Cota just feels like a huge misunderstanding, right? Because where it starts with Toma and Cota, where they first met, was basically in middle school. So Toma basically became sort of the king of middle school when it came to their specific school, with Cota always being there with him, always being there side by side with him, following him, right? But the issue then becomes that Toma actually wants to go to Freerin High, which is the main high school that takes place in this anime. He wants to go there and sort of take over, but we quickly see as soon as he meets Hajime, his tone completely switches. He actually just wants to follow Hajime and sort of be one of his brothers that actually protects the city. When Toma tells Cota all about this, and he sort of says that he's not going to necessarily take over the high school and sort of just follow in his footsteps, Toma leaves Cota and leaves him sort of distraught. Now that we fast forward to present day, we sort of see Toma and Cota as they're fighting in the present. Toma thinks that Cota actually hates him because he didn't go ahead and take over Freerin High, but in all reality, Cota was actually upset because he never took him with him. He always thought that maybe he was weak, or he wasn't able to actually necessarily get up to that level or just be with him. But even at the end of the fight, this is something that never gets inherently said, showing that if anything, that communication is key. When it comes to you talking to your friend, and when you talk to anybody, communication is key. You have to talk to these people. You have to see where their mind is at and where their head is at, so there's no misunderstandings or misunderstanding of how you view things or how you say things. And if you do say things once, sometimes you have to clarify a second or even third time to get the point across. Now for the last two characters, Choji as well as Togame, and no, not that Choji. I actually really did like Choji and Togame. I do want to get into the issues, but I'll get into that a little later down the line. Well, not that far down the line, but anyway, let me at least go over Choji and Togame, right? So Choji and Togame basically try to get to the top of their gang. Well, I guess it's not really called the gang. Well, I guess that just puts a negative connotation. Well, thugs?
Lock them up! Put them in fucking prison! Solitary confinement!
No, I don't think thugs is the right fit. Well, gentlemen, individuals of these gentlemen, or some shit like that. I don't know. No, I got it. These gentlemen in this group. Yeah, we'll just go with that one. Well, anyway, Choji wants to be top of the group with Togame also by his side, but Choji then gets to that point. He gets to the point where he reaches the top. No one else is better than him. He is the best. He is the leader. But the issue that comes with this is just the idea of him getting to the top. Him now being at the top, he doesn't necessarily know what to do. It's sort of like a twist on it. When someone gets to the top, what is the next thing you're gonna do now? And usually people get a sense of euphoria, or they just chill out and they just like the position that they're in, but not Choji. Choji doesn't like this at all. He doesn't have that feeling when he was climbing to the top. So he then gets the horrible idea of turning left, in the idea of this, of saying, you know what, everyone in my group, if you're not powerful at me, get the hell out. Either he's beating them out, or he's just like taking away all their jerseys that's like repping their gang, and just wants the strongest of the strongest because he thinks that'll help him fill in that void that he has in his heart when it comes to him being the leader. Then there's Togame, who Choji recruited a very long time ago, has been by his side ever since. And this is a situation where necessarily Choji has always been good to not only Togame but everyone around him. He's always treated with somebody with respect. So when Choji takes his twist and he hits a left, Togame actually follows him and agrees with him. And the reason why is because he always thought that Choji did the right decision. He always thought that this is the right way, or he'll go back to how he was before. And I always felt like there's a thin line between loyalty and being a follower, and this is that situation where he should have checked him. He should have been like, you should not be doing this. What are you thinking, or what are you doing? If you need someone to talk to, if you need something to do, then we need to do it right now, because this course of action is way of thinking, isn't it, whatsoever. Now I want to get into the last two things, which could be the potential negatives. Now with the first one being is sort of the ending that we do inherently get to to the arc where we do get a little bit of a talk no jutsu. The only reason why I'm fine inherently with it in this specific arc is the reason being, if one, the person hasn't done anything that's so overboard that they cannot be forgiven, and Choji hasn't done anything that's inherently overboard. He did inherently hurt his friends, he did kick a lot of them out and had a piss poor behavior, but nothing was ever an act of unforgiveness. He never like killed somebody or something like that. And two, if that becomes a running theme, I would easily drop this shit like a sack of bricks in a fucking heartbeat. If every arc for some reason had became a talk no jutsu, then yeah, I wouldn't even fucking be talking about the show anymore. But I'm assuming and hoping that it's not the case in the next. Also, it makes me wonder how they're gonna start every new arc, because I know they already teased the next arc at the end of season 1, but I am wondering how necessarily they're gonna put it in. Like, is there gonna be another gang that comes out of nowhere and they're like, okay, we want to fight you, or we don't like your leader, or the case may be. But nevertheless, I think this is honestly pretty peak. I do highly suggest Windbreaker to anyone out there that is watching. Windbreaker is pretty good. It has really good fights, it has really good dialogue. I think the characters are pretty amazing, and overall it's just a really good show so far. So I am hoping for season 2. I am gonna be very hyped for that. And other than that, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.